I was a student at the University of Nottingham 1982 through to 1985. It was a great time to be here. I read economics and agricultural economics, actually as a joint honours degree, and I was at Wortley Hall, which is an old hall, doesn't exist any longer, but was a boys-only hall. I think we had, for each block of bedrooms, 14 bedrooms had just one bathroom, so very different from today's luxury that everybody gets access to. Great camaraderie. Interesting time to be at university. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. We were in the middle of a miners' strike. There was a lot of controversy around things like deployment of nuclear missiles. There was apartheid in South Africa. It was a very politically active era. And so being a student in that time naturally made it exciting. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved the campus and I loved the experience. So I graduated in 1985. I was lucky enough to be offered a job by Glaxo, actually from the milk round. So I was interviewed on campus, went down to see them in their headquarters, and I was offered a job. So I started just a couple of months after graduation working for Glaxo. And since then, I've worked in all sorts of different parts of the business. I've probably had, 16, 17, maybe 20 different jobs at the company over that period. And I've worked in the UK, obviously, where I started. I went off to South Africa, had a fascinating 3 years leading our African business, then went to America, then to Singapore and ran our Asia Pacific business, and then came back to be president of our European business before finally becoming chief executive in 2008. So really an exciting journey, and although it's been one company all the way through, because of different mergers and the growth of the business generally, it's always felt like a very different environment. Every 5 years it feels like you're working inside a different company. And of course, it's given me the chance to have amazing experiences geographically, having worked in almost every continent in the world, and of course in different job functions, all sorts of different experiences that I've built up. So it's been a great experience for me, and obviously the start point of that was an interview here at the campus. No, I certainly never expected to become the Chancellor of the university. I was absolutely shocked and honoured 2 years ago to be given an honorary degree, which I thought was far in excess of anything that was ever going to happen to me. To then get a phone call a couple of years later to say, would I think about doing this, was really breathtaking, and super honoured to be asked. I regard it as a great privilege. I think universities generally are remarkable institutions. I think in Britain we are so lucky to have a few of the world's greatest universities, and I always felt I was lucky to be a student at one of them. To now have the chance to hopefully give a little bit more back, to help help the Vice-Chancellor and the Council think about things, to help it continue to be so successful, it's a real honour, and it's a great opportunity. I look forward to it enormously. Never thought it would happen. Didn't take me too long to say yes, because I have such a strong affinity to the institution. Well, in the role of Chancellor, it doesn't have any power. It's very much a ceremonial type of position. But it does allow me, I think, to be engaged in conversations with a variety of different key decision makers here. And so I think the kinds of areas which I can bring something from my own personal experience would be on the internationalisation agenda. Obviously, with both the Chinese and the Malaysian campuses, Nottingham is already a significant player on the international scene. But I think more could be achieved, and I know there are ambitions to try and do more, and I think I can help there. Secondly, alumni. I think that as we see the revolution of funding of universities in the UK continue to play out, as we've seen over the last couple of years, the role of alumni become more and more important in the way that they are in America. That is, again, something which I think the Chancellor can help to just stimulate some of the questions about how do we need to move alumni relationships forward. And then I think the third area is, if I think about universities as part of the economy, how can I help perhaps build bridges and stimulate the University of Nottingham to be what it really is, which is a driving force of economic progress and growth for the East Midlands? How can it help the city of Nottingham continue to prosper? How can the university be not just a teaching institution, but also a source of start-up companies, new jobs, new technologies, which I think is going to be very much part of the future agenda of governments to help try and drive a more balanced growth in the British economy. This is a tremendous institution, but it's a tremendous institution because all the people who went before us left something of themselves behind in the way in which they laid down the professionalism, the standards of teaching, the quality. They gave something back. Sometimes it's money, but very often it was they gave something back in terms of their legacy from a teaching or a learning perspective. And so I think what we all have to really remember is for this to be seen as a great institution 50 years or 100 years from now depends on people like us to do the same. We have to keep those high standards. We have to continue to modernise, but modernise in the shape of a legacy, so that it's not just modern for another month or a year, but actually steps it forward as being a globally relevant, competitive, super high standard teaching institution, which in my view has the capacity to be an important part of the economic fabric of the country.